The moment you stop texting and calling, something shifts. Not just in him, but in you. At first, it might feel uncomfortable. You are used to reaching out, checking in, and making sure everything is okay. But ask yourself, why do I feel the need to do this? Is it because you truly want to connect? Or is it because you fear what will happen if you don't? The truth is, many women mistake constant communication for emotional security. If you always have access to him, you don't have to wonder where you stand. But what if true security doesn't come from his responses? It comes from your own sense of self-worth. Men are wired to respond to space and distance. It is in that space that they reflect, question, and most importantly, realize your value. When you are always there, he never has to. When you pull back, he is left to confront his own emotions, his own attachments, and his own fears. Some men will react with confusion, suddenly putting in effort they never did before. Others may remain distant, revealing a painful truth: they were never emotionally invested in the first place. But either way, you win, because the moment you stop chasing is the moment you gain clarity. But the bigger question is, what do you truly want? Many women go through relationships without ever asking themselves this. They focus on keeping a man interested rather than questioning whether he is truly the right match. They fear being alone more than they fear settling for less. But why? What is it that you are truly seeking in love? A deep emotional connection? Security? Validation? The answer to this question will reveal so much about your past, your wounds, and your true desires. The second question is just as revealing. What am I afraid of? Are you afraid that if you stop reaching out, he will forget about you? That he will move on? That he never cared in the first place? These fears are powerful because they expose the hidden insecurities that drive your behavior. If a man can forget you simply because you stop initiating, was he ever truly present in the first place? If he moves on that easily, was there ever a deep connection to begin with? If you have to constantly remind someone that you exist, are they really meant for you? The truth is, men respect what they must work for. This does not mean love should be a game, but it does mean that effort is a reflection of value. When you pull back, you give him the opportunity to show you where you truly stand in his life. If he values you, he will step up. If he doesn't, he will let you go. And that, as painful as it may seem, is a blessing in disguise. Because the longer you hold on to the wrong person, the longer you delay the love that is truly meant for you. The final question is the most powerful of all. How do I want to be remembered? When you look back on your life, do you want to remember yourself as the woman who settled for crumbs? The woman who spent her days anxiously waiting for a text, for a call, for validation that never truly came? Or do you want to remember yourself as the woman who knew her worth, who refused to beg for love, and who walked away from anything that did not align with her deepest desires? Healing is not about learning how to make men chase you. It is about learning how to stop chasing them. It is about realizing that your worth does not decrease when someone does not see it. It is about stepping into your power, into your confidence, and into the life you truly deserve. And that starts with these three questions. They are not just about relationships. They are about everything. They are about how you see yourself, how you allow others to treat you, and how you define love, success, and happiness. So ask yourself, what do I truly want? Not what society tells you to want, not what your past experiences have conditioned you to accept, but what your heart, your soul, and your highest self truly desire. Once you have that answer, you will never settle for less again. Ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Face those fears head on. Fear of being alone, fear of rejection, fear of not being enough. These are the chains that keep you stuck. The moment you confront them, they lose their power over you. And finally, ask yourself, how do I want to be remembered? Do you want to be the woman who stayed small, who played it safe, who waited for love to validate her existence? Or do you want to be the woman who chose herself, who loved herself first, and who built a life so full and beautiful that love was simply a bonus? The choice is yours. And the moment you make that choice, the moment you decide to stop texting, stop calling, and start focusing on yourself, is the moment your entire world begins to change. There is an undeniable shift that happens when you stop chasing, when you stop reaching out, and when you reclaim your energy. Women often find themselves giving, nurturing, and investing in men who do not reciprocate the same effort. It feels natural, after all. You have been conditioned to believe that love requires sacrifice. But what happens when you take a step back? What happens when you stop texting, stop calling, and stop putting in all the work? The answer may surprise you. This is not about playing games or manipulating emotions. It is about understanding human psychology, the dynamics of attraction, and the power of self-worth. When you constantly reach out, when you make yourself too available, you unknowingly teach a man to take you for granted. But the moment you pull away, the moment you stop giving him unlimited access to your time and energy, he is forced to confront something he never considered before: the possibility of losing you. But the deeper question is not how men react, it is why their reaction matters to you in the first place. This is where self-discovery begins. There are 3 eye-opening questions that can help you understand your hidden self, your patterns in relationships, and the unspoken fears that drive your actions. These questions force you to look within and ask, what do I truly want? What am I afraid of? How do I want to be remembered? The answers will reveal more about your self-worth, your emotional needs, and your ability to stand in your power than any man's reaction ever could. When you stop reaching out, it often feels like you're stepping into the unknown. You may experience a range of emotions: fear, doubt, excitement, relief. You might question if it's the right thing to do, if you're being too much or too little, and if he'll notice. But ask yourself, what am I hoping for in this moment? When you stop texting or calling, you are not just pausing a behavior. You are creating space for clarity. You are shifting from the role of the pursuer to the role of the chooser. You are no longer waiting for him to act. You are deciding what you want and what you deserve. This shift is incredibly empowering. You begin to realize that you don't need to wait for his approval or validation to feel worthy. You don't need to constantly chase someone to feel loved or wanted. The power lies in your ability to choose when and how you invest your energy. When you give that energy freely without expectations, you start to lose yourself. When you stop and redirect that energy inward, you reclaim your sense of self and control. It is fascinating to see how men react when you stop reaching out. In many cases, they will be confused or anxious at first. The absence of your constant communication forces them to confront their feelings of attachment, longing, or even fear of losing something they took for granted. What happens next is a reflection of how much they valued you. A man who is genuinely interested will step up. He will reach out. He will wonder where you've gone. He will want to understand why things have changed. But a man who doesn't truly care will disappear into the silence, never questioning why you've stopped pursuing him. His reaction, whether it's one of desperation or indifference, tells you everything you need to know about where you stand in his life. This response can be difficult to hear, but it is a necessary part of self-discovery. When you stop chasing, you stop allowing someone to take you for granted. You create space for them to decide if they want to make the effort to keep you in their lives. And in this space, you learn a crucial lesson. The right person will always make the effort. They will show up when you stop running after them. The wrong person will remain distant and detached, and that distance will reveal the truth about their feelings. But while his reaction tells you something valuable, it's important to remember that your emotional well-being is not dependent on how he responds. Your self-worth should not be tied to his actions, nor should you define your value based on how much attention or affection you receive. Do you want someone who is only interested when you initiate the contact? Do you want to be in a relationship where you are the only one making an effort? Or do you want a partnership based on mutual effort, respect, and emotional investment? When you pause and reflect on this, you begin to understand that your worth is not defined by anyone else's response. It is defined by how you see yourself and what you are willing to tolerate. The second question, what am I afraid of, requires deep introspection. Often the fear that arises when you stop texting and calling is the fear of abandonment. The fear that if you stop chasing him, you will lose him forever. But here's the truth. If he is truly meant to be in your life, your absence will not push him away. It will only make him realize what he is missing. However, if he is not truly invested in you, your absence will create space for both of you to grow, and you will see that he was never emotionally available in the first place. Healing from these fears requires shifting your mindset. Abandonment does not equate to rejection. Rejection is simply a reflection of someone else's inability to value you fully. It has nothing to do with your worth. When you stop texting or calling, you stop seeking validation from external sources and begin seeking validation from within. You trust that you are worthy of love, attention, and effort, regardless of someone else's actions. When you ask yourself, what am I afraid of? You start to understand the root of your insecurities. Are you afraid of being alone? Are you afraid that you won't find someone else who appreciates you? Are you afraid that your value is dependent on someone else's love? These fears are rooted in societal conditioning that tells you that your worth is determined by being in a relationship. But the truth is, your worth is inherent. You are valuable because of who you are, not because of who is beside you. By facing your fears and confronting them head on, you begin to free yourself from the cycle of seeking external validation. You begin to see that you don't need to chase anyone in order to feel loved. You can walk through the world with the quiet confidence of someone who knows that love, respect, and care are the natural byproducts of a deep connection, not something you have to force or beg for. The final question, how do I want to be remembered, brings your reflection to a more profound level. If you were to look back on your life, would you want to remember yourself as the woman who waited, the woman who was always second-guessing her worth, always waiting for someone else to make the first move, always sacrificing her own needs to make someone else comfortable? Or would you want to remember yourself as the woman who chose herself, the woman who stood in her power, who refused to settle for less than she deserved, and who taught others to do the same? These are the moments that define you, not the text messages you send, the calls you make, or the effort you put into someone else's life. What defines you is the love you give to yourself, the boundaries you set, and the confidence you have in your own worth. When you stop texting and calling, you stop defining yourself by how much someone else values you. You start to define yourself by how much you value yourself. And that is the true power of self-love, the power to walk away from what no longer serves you, to stop chasing, and to trust that the right person will find their way to you without you having to make the first move.